Hello, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Today I'll be talking about connections beyond the poetry. Before listening to my peers' opinions, takeaways, and deep realizations, I was going to give a presentation on the main lessons and advice I thought 19th century poets were trying to get across to their readers. How we should grieve, love, treat others, spend our time, etc. As I began to draft up the main points of Tennyson's Ulysses, Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience, and Keats's Ode to Melancholy, I began to wonder, who am I to speak for the poets who haven't been around for 2 centuries? Are my interpretations even close to their intentions? And from here my thoughts spiraled into, isn't the point of art that it can be left up to interpretation? Is there even an interpretation to be had? Or is the poet saying exactly what they mean? I paused from this never-ending thought battle and remembered the various topics and themes presented in class over the last week. Then it clicked that no matter what route you take to describe the poetry and poets of this time, there is always a connection to be made, either between my peers and I who are trying to interpret these poems, or between old and modern societies. Like so many of my classmates who have either shared their battles in class or are silently going through it, this semester has been incredibly challenging for me too. In struggles, in the struggles life has presented over the last few months, they have stalled my academic progress, relationship progress, and self-growth. However, there was one week where Professor Reisinger talked about how common it was for poets to sit in their melancholy, and we came up with different channels people have used over the years to immerse themselves in it. I personally seek poetry and music, which is often like poetry, to really allow myself to sit in my pain. One poem we read this semester that resonated with me is The Buried Life by Arnold. I was surprised that he was able to capture the nameless feeling that lives in people's inner selves and explain how it's very rare for people to share their most personal, intimate thoughts. At a time where my self-preserving wall prohibited me from sharing my most honest self in a relationship, I truly heard Arnold when he said we find genuine peace when we take down those walls, express our inner truths, and connect with the people we love. There is something healing and maybe even a little pathetic in reading something from a 19th century anthology. Another common realization people have come to terms with over the semester is that the poems we've read address, or at least touch on, modern day issues. For example, Aurora Leigh addresses feminism while Locksley Hall has a little bit of misogyny. Written in the Churchyard at Middleton in Sussex addresses climate change. The Little Black Boy addresses racism. These are all issues people of today are fighting for or fighting against, and they were all relevant 200 years ago. My main point in all of this is that because we relate to each other, the poets and the themes in the poems, 19th century poetry isn't as out of date or irrelevant as it might appear. Perhaps people of then and people of now are not so different. If these poets could relate to each other, and we can relate to them, it's possible that Arnold was right. At the end of the day, we are all connected because we're simply human. Maybe I was just stating the obvious. Maybe British poets of the 19th century really figured out the meaning of life. But it's also possible that these poets were just as clueless and curious as we are today, and they were just sitting and writing to relate to someone, to find an outlet that lets them sit in their pain, or to find peace in a deeper connection. Thank you.